It used to be at the top of the screen and it had a little X to dismiss it. On mine, it now has a thing on the far right that says, do you want to leave the meeting or is this okay? And you want to click okay if it's okay.
Yeah, and mine's along the top and it says okay or leave meeting. So I'm
Right.
saying okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's just they used to just have an X to dismiss it where the blurb was, and now they put the blurb on the left and they put the dismissal on the right.
Yeah. And the writing looks bigger for us, visually impaired folks.
Maybe that's why they did it.
I want to remind everybody that I have discovered and announced that the chat is always saved to my computer after one of these meetings, as long as I'm the host. And anyone who wants to read the chat later can just send me an email and I'll send it right back.
By the way, I inquired Judy Taylor why we were not allowed to copy the chat. She said that other meetings that they have, people are fairly abusive on chat, which I told her we don't have that. But she indicated some other meetings, there were some things said on chat that they didn't want to have copied. So that's the reason that we are not able to save our chats ourselves.
I think Hank was referring to the transcript. Hank, were you referring to the chat record or the transcript record?
The chat record.
Ah, my apologies. What about the transcript? Is that being saved in place?
I don't think so.
I requested it at this meeting. I usually do. I don't know if anybody wants it. And to clarify for Hank or anybody else, if you are recording the meeting, then if there is a chat or transcript, it automatically gets saved along with the video recording.
Remind me again what transcript is.
It is a full transcript of what is stated in this meeting.
It says it's the audio changed to text as opposed to chat, which is someone typing in.
Like if you're in court, there's a court reporter recording everything in text.
Yeah, okay.
On their little machines. Okay. You have the virtual court reporter here.
Do they still have court reporters, by the way? Is that necessary anymore?
I believe so, and I haven't been to court in a while, so I can't verify directly.
Yeah. Incidentally, if you're as a guest and you are viewing the transcript, I think down at the bottom it says save transcript, and you can save that transcript, but you must save it. If you close the meeting before you think to save it, it hasn't been saved. So I've quite often missed part of the transcript in saving by forgetting to save it at the last minute. So when we're approaching the end of the meeting, I would appreciate it if somebody would remind me to save the transcript if you're so inclined, because quite often I forget.
And I would ask everyone named somebody to raise their hand. Thank you, Zal.
Can I have a clarification? I have clicked the record button down at the bottom, not for this Zoom, but for other Zoom calls. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do if I wanted I guess you would say, quote, audio and video transcript of the meeting. Is that correct, or am I missing something?
It is a video recording of the meeting that is separate from the text transcript.
I'm recording the the video of the meeting, and that will end up in my, if I remember to start the recording, that will also end up in my folder for Zoom for that week. And I usually, well, about half the time, I'm sorry to say, put that recording on the website.
Well, I've only done this twice before, but I'm so kind of new at it, but I have clicked on recording and then went in and searched around, and there was a in Zoom, and it says do the following and we'll give you your information. And I've done the following and I end up with all this stuff.
That's what I was saying. If you are making a recording of a Zoom session, if there is a chat and or a transcript, those will automatically be saved alongside of the video recording at the end of the meeting on your computer.
Yeah, and it's in, just for everybody's information, it's in a folder called Zoom, which is in Documents. And if you click on the Zoom folder, you will see a bunch of other folders with the date as the title of those folders. And when you open that last folder, the one titled by the date, then that's what has the recording and the chat and the whatever else has been saved on your computer.
Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome. I'm still learning, in spite of having run this for, how long is it now? When did we go to Zoom? Anybody remember?
I think it was right at COVID outbreak, but it would be 2020, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah, it would. Spring of 2020.
Perhaps Will would like to do a Audible membership renewal reminder at this point.
Yes, I have sent out letters to existing members and also members from from previous year, and invited them to renew. We've had several renewals already, and I am going to send out letters to those who have joined, confirming their rejoining and thanking them. And in fact, I talked to Stan this morning about whether it should go out under his signature or mine, and he said, well, it's fine to go out under mine, so I'll do that.
You being an officer of the organization, I think that's fine. I was wondering, should we ping people that used to be members but did not choose to renew last year and ask them if they'd like to join again for this year?
That's what I did. I
Okay.
sent out a list of those.
There is also the email list of those who are not members and never have been, but at one time or another asked to join a meeting. I could send you that list, Will.
Yeah, if you do that, you're fine. Thank you.
If you don't get it sometime in the next couple of days, remind me by email. I have to go in and do some kind of rain dance in my contacts list to get a list of those emails.
And I
Thank
find
goodness for
it's good.
computers.
It's good to do the rain dance once in a while so you don't forget how to particularly do the rain dance.
Yeah, the first time I did it, I danced for a while and fell on my face.
Willie, what is that lake we're looking at, or is that a river or an ocean?
It's actually a bay from in Scotland off the Isle of Arran. It's Lacranza Castle, looking over across to the mainland in Scotland.
Were you there? I
Yes,
guess you were. Yeah.
I took that picture in about 1990.
Well, it's 8:40, well past when I should have begun, so I'll begin. Though we only have 18 participants, which is down a little bit. All right, this morning I'm going to run a video called, oh, well, never mind. You'll see what it's called as soon as I get there. The Ultimate Guide to Fix Almost Anything. I think it's the title.
And Hank, I muted all. That included you, apparently.
While I'm sharing a screen. So now you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go back. And share. And unblock. Oh, come on. There. And there. All right, you should now be seeing this full screen.
Yes, but there is another block down toward the lower part that maybe you could dismiss.
I don't know where that is. Not sure where that is.
It's about midway side to side, around where the timeline is for the video.
I think that's the transcript.
And since it has a transcript anyway, perhaps we could turn that off.
Wait a minute, got to find the. Stop sharing again.
Hide captions.
And hide captions. Where am I going to find that? Under more. Captions. Hide captions. There we go. Okay, now let's see if it's still gone.
That's better.
Don't say better, say perfect. But not likely. All right. Any other suggestions?
That looks good.
You could disable the auto next video thing, whatever it's called in YouTube. The little slider. Yeah, right there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So when we get done with this, something else doesn't start. And yammer up everything. All right, here we go.
When it comes to computer problems, there are nearly infinite possible causes, but today I'm going to show you how to solve nearly any problem with Windows, assuming of course that the problem is with the operating system itself and not a hardware failure or just with a specific program. And I've got just a few super simple steps involving some basic commands that should fix most issues, and then one final last resort. But even that does not require wiping and reinstalling anything, but rather does a complete in-place repair install, keeping everything else. And I'll put the timestamps in the description so you can come back to this video next time you have an issue. Before we continue though, I do want to thank today's sponsor, Micro Center, to whom I've already been a customer, and those are the best sponsors. Micro Center has a huge range of electronics from computers, networking devices, TVs and monitors, and more, with over 30,000 items in stock. And by the way, in my experience, if you go to one of their physical locations, they carry things that no other store has, particularly with specialty stuff like individual computer components. And obviously the people working there are going to be more knowledgeable than what you'd see at some run-of-the-mill big box store or something. Now, whether you're shopping in-store at one of Micro Center's locations or looking online at microcenter.com, you'll find a bunch of great deals. And also check out their new lineup of business solutions, including workstations from Dell and Supermicro, as well as their new Supermicro workstation or server builder at certain locations. And if you've stuck around until now, it's definitely worth it, because Micro Center is offering new customers a free 240 gigabyte SSD in store. You can read all the details on their site, but there's no purchase necessary, and it's not one of those chance to win things. You just sign up and you get your coupon and bring it in to claim it. Again, I'll put that link in the description so you can read all the details how. And so, with all that being said, let's continue. Alright, now we can get cracking. For this video, I'm assuming you've already tried the usual stuff, which I'll just list off, like you've restarted, checked for updates, updated your graphics drivers, have done a full virus scan. If it's a network issue, you made sure that only that computer is having issues, and if the problem does seem to be related to a specific program, you've tried reinstalling it. Well, in that case, the next course of action is to try running a few commands created to repair Windows. Now, some of you may have heard these a million times already, but I will go into more detail, so stick around. And for these commands, you guessed it, they're the System File Checker, SFC, and the Deployment Imaging Servicing and Management command, DISM. And these are the exact actual commands shown here. Really quickly, just for context, the SFC command basically checks for corruption within the current Windows installation and fixes it based on a stored system image. And DISM checks for issues with that system image, also referred to as the component store, and repairs it too. Many places will just tell you to just run SFC and DISM and be done with it. Some say in the reverse order, but we're just going to cut out all the uncertainty altogether. Here's what you do. Search the start menu for the command prompt and run it as administrator. Then first run the command sfc/scan now and let it go. It might take a couple minutes, then hopefully it will say, did not find any integrity violations. Or it might say, found corrupted files and successfully repaired them, which actually might be better news because that might have solved your problem right there. And this is a real example of a time I did this myself and it said that. Though another possibility is that it found corrupted files and was not able to repair them, or even that SFC won't run at all. For example, if it says Windows Resource Protection could not start the repair service, stick around till the end. This is one I had to deal with personally. There is an option to fix that without reinstalling everything, but you're probably not going to like it. No matter what it says though, don't worry because we are not done. Oh, and as a side note, if you happen to close the command prompt while the scan is running, it keeps running in the background. So if you try to run it again, it will just seem to hang until the first one is done. It's not frozen. Now, if SFC found anything, whether it repaired it or not, restart your computer. But if it didn't find anything, it's not necessary to restart. And after you do that, next, run this command. DISM/online/cleanup-image/restore health. And I'll put these in the description so you can copy and paste them. Again, if it says completed successfully, there weren't any issues. Or if it did find something, it would say so and hopefully have repaired it. And again, if it did find something, probably restart your computer. Finally, run the same SFC command again in any case. If it found errors and did repair it the first time, you want to make sure that there are none left. And if it couldn't repair before, but DISM repaired something, SFC might work now. As a side note, both commands add to the log file at c/windows/log/cbs.log, and after running DISM in that log file, it will even show this, with the exact number of corrupted files and stuff. Many times, having done all that will fix the problem if the Windows installation itself is corrupted. If it found corruption and was not able to repair, there are still other options.
America is on the brink of collapse, and every billionaire around the world is bracing for it. They're whispering about it at their G8.
But before we get into that, if it did not find any corruption, and the problem still persists obviously, sometimes the issue is your Windows profile being corrupted. I don't actually know how this happens, but sometimes your individual profile gets corrupted and causes weird stuff. Like one time, my start menu layout kept erasing itself, and it was so annoying it turns out it was a corrupted profile. One way to tell if a profile is corrupted is to simply create another extra user account, and see if it happens in there too. You can go to Settings, Accounts, Family and Other Users, add someone else to this PC. And it will ask for a Microsoft account, but no, just hit don't have this person sign in or whatever it says. It'll ask again, and again, just select without Microsoft account, which means a local account. Then just go through and finish making it, keeping your old profile, of course. Then log out of your main profile into the new one and see if the problem keeps happening. Though if it happened randomly, not very often, you might have to use it until it does, or long enough where you're confident that it won't. If a new profile does not seem to fix it, or even if it does, there is still one more thing you'll want to try. Because if a new profile does seem to fix it, it very well could be a corrupt profile. And if it is, God help you, because almost nothing can fix that. Now, the solution is simple, just annoying. Move to another user profile, which though is sometimes just as bad as clean installing. But I'll show you how to go about doing it a little bit easier later. But we aren't there yet. There is a method of last resort besides doing a clean install of Windows, because we obviously don't want to go there if at all possible. And this option is an in-place repair upgrade. The quick rundown before I show you how is basically you download a Windows image from Microsoft's website, then run it the same way you would when installing a major update. But instead of upgrading to a new version, it just rewrites your current Windows system files. And it does not require you to reinstall any programs or lose any files or anything. Only some minor system stuff might get reset, like you might lose some custom fonts or downloaded language packs, and you'll just have to rerun Windows Update most likely, but that's mostly it. So here's how to do it in detail. And there's actually a couple ways to go about this, both involving the media creation tool. So Google Windows Media Creation Tool, or I'll put the link in the description, and hit Download Tool Now on this page, though it might look a little bit different depending on when you watch this. For me, the file name showed the version of Windows as 21H2, which is important to note. In the Start menu, you can type WinVer, and then look to make sure that the tool you downloaded is for either the same or a newer major version of Windows than what you're using. Then just run the tool and accept all the stuff. Now here's the two ways. The better way to try first, in my opinion, is to click Create Installation Media in order to make an ISO. And if that doesn't work, later you could do the Upgrade This PC Now option. So anyway, click Next, and on this one, make sure that the language, edition, and architecture are correct. If it says both, or something non-specific like all languages or whatever, just change it to be exactly what you're using now. So change it to either 64 or 32-bit, which you can see, by the way, by searching the Start menu for system information, but it's probably 64-bit these days. Then, if there are multiple options for the edition, in mine there wasn't here, make sure that the Windows edition is also right, like Home or Pro or whatever. Then once it's all right, click Next and select ISO file, and then just save it anywhere and let it do its thing. It will download the proper ISO version and make the file, and it will ask you at the end if you want to burn it to a DVD, but don't. We do not want to burn the ISO to a USB, DVD, or anything. The upgrade must be run from within Windows, or from my understanding, you would only have the option for a clean wipe if you didn't. So we have to run it from within Windows. Once the file is done, right-click it and hit Mount ISO, which should create a virtual drive, so go into that and click setup.exe. At this point, if you clicked Upgrade This PC Now, you'd be in the same spot as we are here. The first screen will say it wants to download updates and stuff, but we don't actually want that. It could complicate things. Just click Change How Windows Gets Updates, or however it's worded, and then select Not Right Now. Go through and accept all the stuff, and then wait for it to go get ready. Now hold on a second at this next window. This one is critical to pay attention to. Double check that it's installing the right edition, which should be the same as your current one. Even more importantly, make sure it says keep personal files and apps. If it does not say that, and the only option is keep nothing, do not click next or install. That could mean that the ISO you're using or downloaded is for an older version than you're running. And in that case, you'd have to go figure out why that is and get the newer one. Anyway, make sure it's set to keep personal files and apps and hit install or next, whichever one you see. And keep in mind, before this, that's your last chance to change your mind. Now just let it run and it will probably restart multiple times. If you have issues or it fails to install at all, try disabling any third-party antivirus and then try again. And also disconnect any device except your monitor, keyboard, and mouse basically. Or you could also try the upgrade now option we saw before, or just do the ISO again. In any case, hopefully it should have successfully installed, and will show you the whole new installation setup flow, like asking you for privacy settings and stuff. Just go through that and you'll be able to log into Windows the same as before with everything still there. And now it's basically the moment of truth. Just use the computer and see if the problem persists. You can also run SFC and DISM again, and if it wasn't able to repair before, it should be fine now. Now, if for whatever reason this didn't fix it, there could be a couple causes depending on some things. If the update failed to complete at all and SFC showed corrupted files, hold on a minute. If the update did complete but the problem persists, but using a new user profile does fix it, it's almost certainly a corrupted user profile.
3 surprising reasons why you can't go to the bathroom. Number 1, you're eating tomatoes. The skin and the seed of tomatoes.
In which case, if it's a corrupted profile, here's what needs to be done. Go log into that other profile you created, or create one now if you didn't. Go to the directory C, users, and then whatever the name of that account is of your original account. Actually though, because of permissions, what you'll probably have to do is while logged into the original account, copy everything to the public user folder, and then log out of it, log into the new account, and then copy everything from the public folder into the new one. Copy everything, don't drag and drop and move, actually right click and hit copy everything, but do not copy any hidden folders if you have hidden folders enabled, such as app data or any of those. The hidden folders have system files having to do with the Windows profile, and it would certainly just corrupt the new profile even more. Now all the files are in the new account, but unfortunately program settings probably are not. Also, all programs might not be installed for all users, so you might have to reinstall some stuff. If there's any program settings that you really want to copy, you could just look up where the settings files are stored for that computer and copy them over individually. They probably are in app data, but again, don't just copy the entire app data folder over. Okay, back to what to do if there are still corrupted files or the update failed altogether. If there is no corruption, you've done a repair install, and a new user profile doesn't fix it, honestly, I wouldn't know what to tell you at this point. It could be a hardware issue, it could be from some installed program, and if that's the case, maybe either take it to a professional or do a full backup and a clean wipe. That's what I referred to when I said nearly every Windows problem. But if it does still show corruption, at least we have something to work with. And it could mean that the Windows updater itself is corrupted. And this is almost just as bad because the options are really limited. This exact situation happened to me this year where SFC wouldn't even run and said Windows Resource Protection could not start the repair service. I looked at the log files and it turns out that something called Servicing Stack Update was corrupted. And when I looked that up, I discovered it was a key underlying component for several elements of Windows deployment, such as SFC and DISM. Yes, literally the repair tools in Windows themselves got corrupted. Bruh. Now, if it is something like that, like I said, you can still try and run SFC and DISM and then look at that CBS log file I mentioned before. It will probably look like this, and will actually list out all the corrupted files, and above it will give even more details and probably say mismatch, plus some stuff like the exact location of each corrupted file. The way I fixed this, and yes, I was able to completely fix it, was to painstakingly copy a good version of each individual file from another computer. Nope, not kidding. There were like 60 of them. You will have to make sure that the other computer is the exact same build. I believe even the same minor build number. Fortunately, for some reason, my computer was still installing updates, apparently, and was on the latest version, so I just updated my laptop and then they had the same version. Then basically do a search for the good copies. In my case, they all seem to be in these folders. So I just copied all these directories in whole onto a thumb drive and then extracted out the good copies individually as needed from that. But I still had to go in and find the individual things. I couldn't just overwrite everything. Just be prepared for it to find more corrupted files after replacing the first ones. Yes, that happened to me. But after all that, SFC actually did run, and it really did succeed in checking integrity with no corruption. I was legitimately shocked it worked. Now, there might be easier ways to go about that. You will probably, like me, find guides on using an external source for DSM, stuff like that, but I don't want this video to be an hour long, and that didn't even work for me. I did try that. But it might be worth trying if DISM itself is not corrupted like it was in my case, so just look that up yourself. But after doing everything above, it should have fixed dang near every problem. To be thorough though, I'll mention the check disk command, which is also good to know if your SSD or hard drive are acting up. Just look up how to use that. And if you're having a problem where Windows won't boot at all, it could be a boot record issue on which I'm not even going to attempt to give advice. I'm just not familiar enough with it. Though you can yourself look up the bootrec command, that's one that I know, and its options that might help. So at this point, at least you can say that you'll have tried everything I could think of. Thanks again to Micro Center for sponsoring this video. I'll put some links to their stuff in the description, so check that out, including that free 240 gigabyte SSD. If you guys want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one where I did go over what the app data folder and all that is about, if you're curious. It really is interesting, so you can click that right there. If you guys want to subscribe, I only make videos about once a week, so also be sure to enable the bell for notifications so they don't get lost in the rest of your subscriptions. As always, be sure to like the video, comment if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.
You gotta love YouTube for jamming the ads in here and there.
That's how they make money.
Has it gotten a lot worse in the last, few months? It's just, yeah.
Let's see, where are we? Okay. I don't see anything still running. There we go. We have some hands up. Mr. Wakely.
Yeah, I was doing fine today until I watched this video. Scared the devil out of me. Fortunately, we do have a resource, and his name is Ross Malloy. Ross, thank you for being with us. If I ever had any major problems, first thing I would do is call you. I wouldn't try to do any of these things that Mr. Theo talked about. I guess there was a day when I would try that, but no longer. So thank you, Ross, for being here.
Well, if I might comment, yes, I see these types of problems, profiles messed up all the right. So you know that I strongly recommend that you have a backup that includes an image of your computer. There's a number of programs out there. I like to use US Total Backup. There's a free version for home that will do an image of your backup. Set it up to do an automatic backup every night to a plug drive that's already plugged in all the time, or to a network drive that again is always plugged in. You can password protect that so that if you're concerned about a virus jumping from your computer to the backup drive and unencrypting it or destroying those backup images, you don't have to worry about that, because with a password, they can't get through. Also, from what I've seen of the viruses that are going in and starting to delete items, they don't go in and back up, but they don't mess up with the backup files because they're so large. And what they're doing is trying to encrypt that file So they ignore those. So to me, if you're getting those issues and the first couple steps that they have there don't fix it, it's really time for me to recommend that you do a full new install. And I would recommend on a new drive. Buy a new, bigger, faster SSD, put that in there, use the image tool that they talked about there. It will put a new version of Windows back on your computer. Most of the computers now have the Windows serial number in the BIOS. But again, you're doing it onto a new drive. So if something goes south, you still have the old drive to work with. That seems to save a lot of time to do it that way, to do a fresh Windows install and then reinstall your backup software. And then you can do an image restore and get you back to with all your applications, all your settings, everything onto that new physical drive.
And
That's
I
all.
think that's much more valuable and useful than the presentation that I just presented, which I kind of regret that I
No,
objected to.
it's recommended. The problem is it can take hours to go through those steps. And then still at the end, if your system doesn't boot and work correctly, now you still need to go through that step of a fresh install.
Saul?
I just wanted to note that that initial thing near the beginning of the video about Micro Center, I don't even know if we have any here on that in-person offer. That's a 2-year-old video, so don't expect to go in and get your free SSD. And I would echo what Ross said: back up, back up, back up. You can restore in minutes and be up and running.
So right now, a 500 gigabyte SSD is about $50. The one that they were talking about there, a 256 gigabyte SSD, is about $25. So again, to say I want to preserve my old drive is just good. If it's a spinning drive, you shouldn't be using it anyway. You should have moved to an SSD. And if you have this type of issue, that's a good time to move to a solid state drive. And you'll be amazed at the performance improvement that you see if you're using an SSD. We're not using an SSD, excuse me.
All that I want to say is that the first two commands, the system file check and the DISM, those are good things just to do as a maintenance kind of thing, to make sure that there's no little bits of corruption that are showing up. Those two, I think they're safe and they don't take that long, and it's I think a useful sort of a to keep your system clean. All the other stuff, especially all that corrupted profile stuff, I tend to agree. If you can't just get a backup from a good state and use it.
Yeah, if you were to restore and reinstall, you can make a new user profile. You can have the old drive and the new drive both plugged into the computer and then transfer the information that's there. So you can go to the My Documents, the My Pictures, all those things, and pull those items back. What's going to be more painful is to reinstall the applications and getting the license numbers back correct. But let's say you use a Microsoft account and you use a Microsoft Office 365, something like that, then you just sign on to your account and it will then say, can I install this for you? And it will push the Office 365 back onto your computer. And if you had OneDrive running, it will have all those files and it'll bring it all back. Works very seamless. I don't like using a Microsoft account to log in on the computer. The problem is that Microsoft is in control of the login on your computer. If there's an issue, you don't have the recovery information on that image, that password account. You haven't set up your email addresses or kept up with the telephone numbers at Microsoft. you can't get back in. There's nothing we can do to help you unlock that computer. So I like, as he mentioned, they're using a local account. There's a trick on how to do that on a new computer too, is you just use a fictitious email address. Make one up when they ask you for your Office 365 or Microsoft Office account. Just make an email up and then type in a phony password, and then it will say, oh, we've run into a problem. And then it will let you make a local account for that new computer.
Mr. Wakely.
Yeah, just again, to get to SFC and DISM, you just type command CMD and then SFC.
Will, you have to search for it, have it come up, and run it as an administrator, as was shown in the video.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the video again. Thank you.
And then there are switches, and you should look for that command and say, how do I run the SFC command? And then it should say, do this, do this, do this, do this. And because there are switches that you need to put behind that command so that it does a scan now. Going back in afterwards and saying with found errors and trying to get to the information and say, this is what I need to replace and this is what I need to fix, gets to be difficult. So if the utility won't run on its own, then again, to me, it's best to get a new drive and reinstall your Windows onto that and recover your information from your backup, your image backup, not a data file backup, but an image backup.
And if I could just mention, there is a question in the chat if Ross wants to address that. And I will also mention that all of these techniques mentioned in that video require that you can actually get into Windows to do them. If you can't even boot into Windows, none of that's going to help.
So in the chat, it says, can we purchase an external solid state drive and use it to back up several laptops, Windows 7, Windows 10? Physically, can you do it? Sure. At the cost of the drives, again, you can get a 500 gigabyte and probably solid state drive in the range of $50. I don't like plugging in and unplugging backup drives. That drive to me should always be available. So let's say you take a laptop with you. When you come back and you plug into power and you plug in your mouse and you plug in your printer cable, you plug in your backup drive. And then it's always available and the backup is scheduled to run every night. I don't like where we have to say, I'm going to remember to do it on Tuesday afternoons at 4 o'clock. I don't like that because people forget to do that. And then you end up with not having the latest information. But yes, can you do it? Yeah. And external SSDs work great. They're in a little box, or you have a USB connection on them, and they plug in and work just fine.
Yeah, they're not as fast as SSDs that are on like an M2 slot or something, but they work fine.
Right. Well, the drive itself is generally fast enough. The issue is your connection to them, as you're speaking of. The older computers have the USB connection on it, USB 2.0, and it does not have a fast connection on it. If you plug in on your computer and it's a blue connector, then that's a USB 3, and that is a much faster connection. And you just have to make sure that when you go to buy your external SSD drive, that it has a USB 3.0 on there. What is becoming more popular now is the USB-C, as in Charlie. And that is where a lot of things are plugging into. You can buy a USB-C hub and then have multiple USB-C connectors, video connections on that USB-C port. Is able to share that out. You can do that on the USB 3.0, but it's only for USB. Trying to get other types of devices to work on the older USB connection is much more challenging. But on, say, the new Macs, they'll only have one USB-C. So you have, if you're going to have more than one thing in there, you need to have a hub that lets you plug in multiple devices.
Yeah, I found having a USB hub quite useful. I've got one from my main PC, which is sort of sitting on, down on the ground. I bring the hub up and it sits on my desk, and I've got several things I can plug in there. And actually, the hub nicely has individual on and off buttons, so I can turn things on and off straight from there
Yeah.
without getting down and plugging and unplugging things.
Right. For the USB-C connection on there, say for a laptop now, that connection can usually power the laptop. It may have a separate connection on that laptop for a power brick of some kind, but that USB-C port usually, again, can be used as a charging port. So if you say you have your charger plugged into your USB-C hub, you have all your other devices, backup drives, mice, whatever it is you want to have, and then you have one connection to disconnect and one connection to make when you are leaving with the laptop and then coming back with it.
And that one USB-C's got plenty of bandwidth to support all those devices. I mean,
Yes. Yes, much better. And that's so, that's what I tell people. If you've got an Apple, say an iPhone that has a USB-C on the bottom of it, and you've lost your laptop charger, well, you've got one there in that adapter of charger for your iPhone. It's not as big usually, but it will charge it.
Just take a little longer.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, I think it's time to move to Q&A. Anyone have any problems? Anyone have any successes they want to boast about? Fascinating.
David?
Well, since there's a gap there, I had a problem with my Hisense smart TV last night, and I really haven't tried to troubleshoot it, but it's sort of frightening. The power light went out and it just dropped out of power. And then when I clicked on other devices, it seemed to come back. As I say, I haven't tried troubleshooting. Probably shouldn't even mention it until I do try some troubleshooting. But has anybody had the power light, the little red light on the bottom of a smart TV go out, but still be able to come up with some like volume control level indicator or something? I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, that's okay. So the main comment that I would make on there is it's a computer. Yes, you're using it as a television, but it's a computer back behind there. Will computers mess up every once in a while? You have to turn them off and turn them back on to reset them? Yes. So it's likely that if it happens again, then you might be having a power issue within that screen, that TV. I would have you check warranty on there, and don't hesitate to contact them if you're still in warranty. Say, I'm having this problem, so that when it finally does die, that you have some history to saying, I've been having this problem. I don't think it's been a problem, maybe as of late. We live around water. We've been having rain. It pulls moisture into things when they are cooler, and then they can cause shorts inside the computer. It's generally better, but it's kind of hard now to try to make sure you leave the device on all the time and warm, so it doesn't pull moisture.
Thank
Could
you
it
for
be
that.
just a defective light?
No, they're LEDs. And you don't have a problem with LED. It's 1,000,000 to 1 that you'll have a problem with an LED compared to an incandescent bulb. So no, I would not expect that it is the bulb itself. I would expect it's something back in the computer that had a problem.
One other thing I've seen occasionally is, if the main power to a computer is a bit flaky and you've got other things plugged in, they may be taking power off those other things and keeping the computer sort of running, but it gets it confused. And so sometimes, unplug the other things when you do the reboot or and everything, because that way it's got less things to think about as it starts up.
And was that your hand up, David, or?
Yes, well, yeah. You asked me any new things or successes. Well, for Christmas, I was given some of these little guys here. These are air tags, and they're quite neat. The problem for me is I don't, or at least didn't have an iPhone, but I thought I was just wondering if people would be interested in a little session where we talk about air tags and how to find things that you've left behind and whatnot, and what we did for me, an Android user, to find things with an air tag. But I got these for Christmas.
So many years ago, close to 10 probably, I bought a Tile. It's called The Tile, and it's the Tile app. Those are Android. I don't know if they actually have anything for iPhone on there, but I kind of think they do. And those have worked great for me. The newer ones now have replaceable batteries, because if theirs doesn't, then about once a year, you've got to buy a new one. Where the
these
ones
have
that,
replaceable batteries.
then
These
you
do.
have put a coin battery in there and go again. I have heard of people of late putting those into their luggage when they travel. And the airline said, "No, we've lost your bag. I don't know where it is." And the person brings up their phone and says, "Well, it shows me it's here. It's in the Dallas-Fort Worth airport." So then they've had to call that airport and actually walk the people through to go find their piece of luggage. So it will find things. Now, the bad side of it is that those tags are being put onto cars to track you. So stalking events have been occurring because of that.
So these things are tracking devices that wherever they go, something can find them. Is that right, David?
Yes, and if we want to talk about it, we'll go into the kinds of things. There's some videos that show you how to use these things. If I wanted to, perhaps Ross and I could, quote, tag team, and we can do an Apple side and an Android side.
Sure.
Let's just schedule that for some Saturday. That okay? You good to talk long enough to be the featured attraction?
Yeah, we'll have a little video. I'll show you what these things are. I'll show you what my iPhone that I now have, what it looks like, and then we can talk about how to do the same sort of thing on the Android side.
And it's called the title of the morning is air tags, huh?
Yeah, air tags. Yeah.
What say?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Don Raymond.
Oh, well, I've got something that I was wanting to talk about, that power can completely go down. It doesn't make any difference. It's a computer device and it works great. Can I show my screen?
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I have found this little very old analog style device to work every single time I've used it. And it works very well with an iPhone and very well with an Android phone. And you can even put 2 or 3 AirTags on it if you want. But you can also set it on the TV tray on the airplane and watch everything you want, and it'll stay there unless it needs a seatbelt and you've got a horribly rough flight. Or when you're watching a video or something, you can use it as a hands-free device. It's the whole price of $10. And mine has been worth that many, many, many times. And it says on here on the lower print, no Ross Malloy required. So sorry, but or Don Raymond, it works. It's great, and you might consider getting one.
It looks like it folds up pretty flat.
It does. Here's one right here, and you got this thing here. You fold it. You can fold it up and you can carry it. You can put it in the little box it comes with for luggage. And there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how thick it is. And it's heavy metal. Okay. And it's not going to tip over. And if you ever need a stable image, you want to do something like this, it'll do it and get you one. It's right there on the screen, and works great.
I have something similar to that on my desk that is a wireless charging port that you can use for any of your wireless charging Android or Apple device on there. And the nice part of that is as I'm sitting working in my office, my phone is in the charger, and then I can read the screen that's there. I can, I hear a beep or something, and I can look over and see what the screen is saying. If it was a text versus an email, but it works all the time. And then when I go to bed at night, I make sure the phone is in that cradle, and then it's always charged the next day. So the same as what you have right there, but mine is tethered. It's not, I don't use it as a portable device, and I see the advantage of the device that you have as a portable device. And as you mentioned, to have, saying I want to set up and do a shot, that would let you do that.
So anyway, we had a lot of technology. This is a lot lower tech than Joel was today. I think anybody can use it, and they can carry it with them. If you want it, it's fine. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Okay. That it for your hand up, Don?
Yeah, that is my hand up.
And Stanley's next.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, go back to AirTags. I have been using the Chipolo finder device, and it got to be so erratic and so confusing. I just uninstalled the app and don't use the devices anymore. And I lost the little card that goes in the billfold, and I should be able to find it, but I couldn't find it. So anyway, I've given up on Chipolo. So I would be interested in either the AirTag or the thing that Ross mentioned as a
The tile.
Yeah. And so anyway, I would look forward to that presentation to help me. Thank you.
Will? You're muted.
Yeah, I have an Android phone. One of the things I'm doing all the time is switching between timeouts of 30 seconds and 30 minutes. We used to have a thing in computers called macros. Is there such a thing in Android cell phones that allow you to just do a one-click button and have it do a whole bunch of things? And if not, why not?
I would Google for it. I don't know how to do that. But if you're talking about where the screen locks out on you after a certain period of time, there are adjustments in your phone for that.
Yes, and that's what I use, but it takes 2 clicks to do it. I was looking for something that I could just click on one button and it would switch back and forth between timeout 30 seconds, timeout 30 minutes.
Well, I don't
That's
understand
it's a security feature, Will. So they're trying to get you to sign out. If you set the phone down, how long do you want to wait until somebody else could pick it up and use it? So I understand what you're saying, that you'd like to have an option to be able to go click and do that. I don't know how to do that. No.
Well, no, this is just a power saving thing and not necessarily a security thing.
Same thing. So it's there for security primarily, where it logs you out after a certain length of time, and you can then change it. I think you can change screen, turning off the screen versus locking the phone.
Yeah, I just want to turn off the screen, that's all, yeah.
I understand. So I would look for that in the settings to say, is there an option in there that says after a certain length of time, make my screen go black versus locking the phone?
There is, and it's in accessories, and you can set it for different times, but you have to go in and physically do it. I'm looking for just a single button that would do it, but obviously, I don't know. I would expect there's a macro. I'll go look it up. I haven't.
Well,
Checked on
instead
it,
of a
yeah.
macro, I think you would look for an app that lets you do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd go up to the Google Play Store and if you want to, there may be an app that makes macros for you.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Will, I don't know on the Android, but isn't there a power button on it?
Yeah, there is a power button, but I don't want to turn the cell phone
I
off.
understand. I'm just asking because I have an iPhone, and if I tap my power button, it blanks the screen. It
But it
doesn't shut it
doesn't turn-
off.
Oh.
It just blanks the screen. It's one button.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll check that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alice?
I have a question for Ross. Ross, on that holder. I've been looking at that for myself, but I have a case on my phone. Would it still charge it if I put it in that? And
So
what
So yes, I have and have had for my Pixel 5 and now my Pixel 8, a rubber case that goes around the phone. And the charger that I have is able to penetrate that rubber case. Mine is an Anker, Anker.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
And I bought it from Amazon for about $10 to $15, I think, several years ago.
Well, I think they still have them for about that same amount. I was just concerned. I wasn't sure that it would still charge because I think that's a very convenient thing to have.
Right,
So
I agree. It works. This one works with mine.
yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Alice, have you been getting the forwarded financial notices from PayPal that I've been sending to you and Will?
You don't send them to me. You send those to Miriam.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm glad they're doing it, not me.
You done with your hand up?
Yep.
Okay, I see no more hands. Look, Ma, no hands. Willie.
Nope. Oh, I'll just leave my video off. I just have a small success story. Seeing as how we're towards the end of the thing, I just installed a new computer. It was something I brought up before, all in one computer. I finally got it installed in the farthest room in the house, and everything looked good in the installation. But as soon as my wife started doing a Zoom meeting, she noticed it was breaking up. Obviously, not a good enough Wi-Fi signal up there. So my son and I did a very unscientific workaround on it. We moved the computer 4 feet away from where it was, more towards the other side of the room, and it seemed to work fine. Then he put it back to the same location. Well, we basically set up a Zoom session so we could verify with the Zoom data rates that we're using, and you could definitely see it's buffering, or however you call it, stalling. And then we moved the computer back to verify that it went back to the bad state. Then I took my router, which is sitting next to me down here in the room, and I moved it 6 inches away from the wall, and it got back to being good. So we did two different things: moved the computer 4 feet, moved the router 6 inches away from a wall, and those both things made the Zoom session unflawed for about 40 minutes until they kicked us off the Zoom. But we'll find out next week when we start Zooming again. Small success, easy solution.
For me, I go through this quite often where someone says my computer is slow. The first is I have a device application on my Android phone. I think I had to pay $15 for this one, but it lets me pick which Wi-Fi signal I want to. It shows me all the Wi-Fi signals that are available and shows me the speed at which they are running at that moment and lets me run a speed test on that. So you could go take this your cell phone, connect it to your Wi-Fi, go to where your router is and do a speed test, and then go to the other place at the end of the house and run multiple speed tests to say, here's where my better signal is. Now, in general, getting your modem as high as possible, putting it on top of a bookshelf, gets it higher, and there are less things in the way, because that's what's breaking up that signal. There are bookshelves, dryers, whatever it is that you have that may be in the line of sight between your modem and where it is. Using a Wi-Fi extender, TP-Link are the one that I like to use, and I put those halfway in between where we're trying to get those to hook up. It picks up the existing Wi-Fi signal, and then we'll extend it to the other end to where you need to have it. But yeah, that's an ongoing issue.
Thank you for letting us know your solution, Willie.
Dan?
Yes, I had a TV problem, and what I had to do is unplug the TV and replug it in and rescan it. So that's just information for Stanley that
Yep.
may work
For that,
or may
I'll
not.
do it.
Yeah, there you're talking about where you're unplugging it and plugging it back in and rescanning to find the local TV channels that you're picking up off of antenna. And yeah, you have to do that as things are changing. TV over the air with antenna, there's a lot going on right there. There's no real good solutions at the moment. You can get an antenna, you can get a tuner, and some of them are built into the TV. But a lot of the channels now are going to encryption, and they don't have standards set for encryption yet. So it's the Wild West out there for over-the-air TV.
Well, what happened to me is I scanned the TV without unplugging it first, and I was getting double channels. So the cure to that was to unplug it and start over again.
Yep.
That it, Dan?
Yeah, that's his.
Stanley?
Yeah, back to the wireless charger. This is the one that I have.
Yep.
It's a little easel. This
Yep.
happens to be a Samsung, but with my Pixel 6, it charges overnight. And I don't know whether it's a larger size, but I have never, almost never, had to charge it during the day.
Yep.
It gets through a full day of heavy use on an overnight charge. And I've been using those little magnetic connectors so I could, the little magnetic connector on the bottom that allows me to pop the cables on and off. And I'm almost tempted to remove that and go back to the non-magnetic plug-in type, because I never need to charge it during the day. Well, hardly ever. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, those work well in the newer Android phones. It watches when you plug in the charger, what the charge state is, and when you usually take it off, and then we'll adjust the charge cycle. So if you usually have it plugged in for 10 hours, then it will say, okay, I'm going to take up to 10 hours to charge it. And what that does is it extends the life of the battery because it doesn't get as hot. Same way with the wireless charging isn't as efficient. It's not as quick. You're not going to get a 1 hour charge full off of a wireless charger. It may take 2 or 3 hours. But again, to me, that's extending the life of the battery itself. And as you said, my new phone and my old Pixel 5 the same way. I usually could get up to 2 days worth of use out of the phone, depending on how much screen time I was using it. And so have to plug it in anymore. You're right. That need has really gone away.
Thank you.
On an older Apple phone, you can still take your phones to Apple and they will replace the battery in the range of $100. There's a company that's a chain, and there's several of them in San Diego, called U-Break iFix, that will also replace your batteries in your other devices. I think it's usually about $50–$60 for most Android type phones. And if you're saying that my phone is usable, I don't need to have a new one, it's just the battery won't last me a day anymore, that's the option that you can say I can get for less than $100, replace the battery, and then go on. Now with Apple, one thing that you should always have, but they will force you to have, is a backup of all of your information to something like iCloud before they will take it and do it.
And I did that in the with the U-Break iFix that's here in Kailua in Hawaii. And I think they also had what do you call them? The cases for my Android phone to keep so that it bounces when I drop it instead of crashing.
I saw there was on a YouTube video that there's a company that makes cases for phones that on the back of it, instead of being just a blank slate or an image of some kind that you have, has an X-ray picture of your phone, and they were in the range of $20. So it was kind of interesting, a techie as me being able to say I could have a case on the back of my phone that shows me what it looks like inside.
Good.
Interesting.
Does that go layer by layer through the PCBs?
No. I worked for a company where we did that. We actually went down with an X-ray and went down through the system, and then could look for shorts and opens through that. Where it would compare, saying this is where I know there's supposed to be a short, and there's a short there. No, okay, that's not good.
Well, there is a posting in the chat mentioning specifically for lithium-ion batteries, and it's the same issue with electric vehicles, okay, is that charging to 100% is often not recommended for the life of the battery.
Right.
To extend it.
Again, the phones these days take that into consideration and usually will limit the amount of charge going in, and also up to the 100%. I think that, that's an option in your settings. Do you want it to be this way or not that way? And I think the default now is to only charge to 85%. And that's the same way with, as you're talking about, with electric cars and also with laptops. Did you see recently that there's a very large source of lithium by us?
Yeah, out by
It's a Salton Sea.
Salton Sea area. Interesting.
Well,
I just purchased 2 new cell phones. I'm not very cell phone literate, but anyway, also being pretty frugal, I went to TrackPhone, and TrackPhone was having a special on Samsung Galaxy A14 5Gs. Believe it or not, they were only $85. And by the time you add all the taxes, etc., it came out to $100. But these phones seem to be fine, and they're 5G phones. I'm still learning how to use them, but they seem to be one of the latest, seem to work as well as the latest phones. So anybody looking for an inexpensive phone, take a look at TrackPhone. Not only are their phones inexpensive, but their services are inexpensive, as low as $7 a month. So just for your information.
I see. Well, Dan, your hand's back up. And you're muted.
I say track phones are locked to the track phone service. And if you're going to get one of them, don't depend on using it on for somebody else's service. So that's why they're cheap, is you can only use it on track phone.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of phones that are that way. If you're getting a phone from that company, that they will sell you a locked phone. So in other words, you can't take a Verizon phone to AT&T if you've bought it with a special pricing situation, that they lock it to that particular provider. Track phone is a division of Verizon. So as what I understand, and you're using the Verizon towers, which is not a bad thing. But just like the old Watts lines or the less expensive 800 services, you are using the extra bandwidth that's available. So if you happen to get into a cell that there's lots of Verizon users who pay more, then you may not be able to make good communication because they will lock you out until that cell opens up. But that's rare anymore, that we're in a situation where the cell is overloaded.
I found their service to be good too. When I dial 611, they helped me out a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's 9:45 here in Hawaii. Meeting we've been on for quite a while. If I see no more hands, I will bid you all aloha till next week.
If I may, I would just like to do my monthly reminder that next week will be the Board of Directors meeting. And if you're interested in saving your transcript, now is the time to save. And thank you all for being here. And I want to comment, I think we've had a very courteous interaction. I think raising the hands is working. So thank you all for being a great group. See you next week.
And thank you, Hank, for organizing it.
And if anyone has any updates that they want for the minutes, send them to me now, because I'll be sending out the minutes the next day or so, so everyone has a chance to read them before next week.
Thank you, David.
See you folks next week.
Aloha all.